outside of the zone of the Malacca Heritage City.
Yes.
It is falling outside, no?
Yes. So
Because if it is inside, there are actually rules and regulations as to what you can and cannot do with heritage buildings.
Yep.
So if it falls outside, so that's just the first. That's just matter of fact, right? The second thing then is, if you intend to get this building recognized as a heritage building, there are certain conditions. It has to meet so many years of age and so forth, you know. But if it doesn't meet the criteria to be gazetted in Malacca as a heritage building, then it will not be a legally gazetted heritage building. It's just an old building that you want to repurpose for your use. Then you don't have to follow any heritage regulations about what you can or cannot do, you know. Because a lot of heritage laws will tell you what you can and cannot do with old buildings.
Yes.
So you probably fall out of that category. You're not bound to comply by any heritage regulations on refurbishing the structures. So it is now a matter of choice, I suppose, how much you want to retain its original, how much you want to refurbish without destroying the original look and feel, so that maybe in some point in the future, the building will soon get older. Let's say in the next 30, 50 years, right? It may fall within the time frame. A building should be more than 100 years old, for example, whatever it is, you know. And I suppose the other thing is, whatever we do, I think, we must be careful not to do the wrong thing, so that somebody down the road will say, oh, look at those people in the year 2023, this is what they did the wrong thing. Just as we are pointing at the plywood today, we hope no one will look future and say, oh, this heritage building, but they made a mess of it, you know. They put epoxy, they put all the wrong things inside. Then you get criticized years later that you did the wrong thing. So heritage architect, an architect familiar with heritage buildings in Malacca, and there are actually quite a few of them, they can be the people that can provide the advice.
Definitely.
Like, for example, the National University of Singapore, they've got these architectural students in the building in the Yeo Maternity Home.
Yes.
So these are National University of Singapore students who specialize in studying the architecture of the past and how to retain and so on and so forth. So that will be a good place to make contact with them and say, I've got this building, number 1 Praya Lane. You are architectural
NUS
students.
will be one of the best.
Because they took lease of that building. These are architectural students, you know, studying the architecture of Malacca across the river, the other side. Yeah, not the clock tower side, the other side, you know, the Tankera side. So they will probably come and assess and say, oh, we think this is what we can do. We think this is what you shouldn't do. This is what you should do. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, that's good news for me because, in fact, I have contact with NUS. I've got, professor with engagement in the city. So, I think what I will do, I'll follow up on what you just said and try to make inroads or contact with NUS Architectural Department. I have also another professor, Professor Nikhil, but he's more into lime conservation, kind of the right way to do conservation with buildings that is of lime, with lime. So this maybe I can also try to see how, because the other day I had a group of architectural students more into maybe arts and not directly architectural, but they were quite keen about the buildings in Praya Lane. So maybe I'll have to follow up on that angle, the NUS students. Thank you very much.
Incumbent on the owner to make a decision of some sort.
Yes.
Because if you're going to invest to put the building, of course, making the building safe to be occupied is the first priority, but trying to do it correctly so that it doesn't destroy any heritage value that the building may have.
Yes.
And that will lead to the third thing, which is how much actually do you want to invest monetarily to put it back in order? Because restoring an old building, I mean, this is an old building. Restoring an old building is not necessarily cheap. Calling a contractor to simply put it right is cheap. To simply fix the gutter is very cheap.
Yeah,
cosmetic. But to do
it
beyond cosmetics, to ensure that we don't destroy any heritage part of it, will require an heritage architect to come and have a look. But I think, Martin, we know that the grounds of this building also is historical, especially moving on to the Saturday Ice Cafe, because of the origins of the St. Francis School, the St. Mary's Church, the chapel, and so on and so forth. So at some point, maybe part of the planning is to do ground penetrating radar survey in the periphery, because with a GPR, we can actually go beyond the surface and see, are there any walls that are still remaining behind from the old chapels or churches, you know. So we can easily get the right people to do a GPR along, and then see if there's anything. And then, once you find something, and again we can figure these things out. But once you find something, it obviously starts to get very interesting because Jabatan Warisan Negara has to get involved, right? Because there's the Heritage Act 2005, and these buildings are obviously they come from Portuguese occupation time, so they are obviously of heritage of interest. Just like when they dug up the bastions near the clock tower, we all know about the Porta Santiago, and then we knew that the city was walled up. But when the real work happened to try and find the alignment of the wall, and then Datuk Zuraida Majid was then the Heritage Commissioner, they actually rebuilt a bastion, right? They did a lot of GPR work to try and figure out the alignment, alignment of the and then they did sampling, they dug up, and now we know in front of St. Francis Xavier's Church, they got one spot they've retained, the one Middleburg Bastion they rebuilt, and then they've got the Gallery Kota Malacca now that describes the whole city, the walled city, and so on and so forth, So, but based on Iridia's description of Malacca and the maps he had produced, we know that there are these old chapels around this area, right?
Yes. Because
we should try and locate those things for value.
Already of sorrows. Not so sure on the sorrow is let me see, Piedade or something. So exactly where is the location? We're not sure, but there is a chapel of the Assumption here. So maybe the place or the original chapel was maybe built somewhere around this area and renamed as the Assumption Chapel because of the historical story of why sugarcane is used in this particular chapel. So there's a lot of investigation, a lot of research to be done to kind of find out more about Praya Lane. So I think we'll start out with number one, Praya Lane, because I feel this building really has got for me a lot of I would say a lot of importance to at least find out more about this building. And then our plans for this building, if we can, like I say, get the permission and the cooperation of the house owner, obviously we want to try and preserve this building, because I think it's got a lot of historical heritage value.
And it just happens to be number one.
And exactly, number one. And the house that Bernard Santa Maria lived, the house that he died in, and I'm sure his spirit is still roaming, in this house and in the vicinity. Because for me, like I say, I'm here is partly because of him, my exposure to his work, to his idea, to his ideals. That's why I'm here.
He's a pioneering community leader.
Oh yes,
He's a pioneering community leader.
Like I say,
wrote his book
on
the community. And that became the first book that I think contained a lot of facts.
Yes,
he had done a lot of research, contained a lot of facts about My People, My Country was the book.
Sadly,
and went too early, but that's the work that we draw back on.
Went too early, like what Paramintaro said. He was a shooting star. He came, he made his streak. He just had his imprint done and he's gone. But the imprint is still there. His works, his memory, his ideas are still there. And like I say, I did work quite many years with him, and I have more or less his ideas that I have learned from him. So it's basically to start up what I've learned, and that is, like I say, actually very important, is to try our best to preserve the culture and heritage of the community in terms of its language, in terms of its cultural practices, in terms of its festival, and community as a whole. Because if we don't do that, go down the road, 20 or 30 years, our children will even forget to speak the language. They will even forget the significance of their festival, why they are celebrating Assumption Feast and sugarcane and all that. So I think that is actually one of my main mission, is to try to get these things going. Because eventually I say, I had a mother just telling me yesterday, I want to learn the language. I want my children to learn, but I don't know how to go about it. Whatever I have is all like, it's just for a while and it dies off. So, but for us, we want to try and make it something that is not just a day or two, or a week or two, or a year or two, and it ends. Ours, we try and do our best to make it something continuous, something to get it, maybe I say even kind of all, online learning. So that is actually what we plan to do. So we will start our language classes next Saturday. And our method will be conversational Kristang. So we'll use the dictionary of Patrick de Silva to start our classes. So we take the first word as in Abana, okay, get to know what is Abana, and then the noun version, obviously that is abana, and the act of using the abana, that is abana. Okay, so we're trying to do that method of teaching, which I think will be a bit more interesting. And then at the same time, we get a heritage. We get a native speaker like Alfonso de Silva to interject and give a bit of his idea, and we make it a very fun way of learning. And then hopefully, like I say, eventually we can do it online, and at least 2 or 3 times a week.
To keep at this, individuals that are passionate, who know enough of the history, who are at a certain age now where they feel they feel sorry to see things eroding away. They feel very compelled to try to bring back the past, some of it, but the maintenance and retaining the culture, the religion, and the practices that come with it, the religious practices linked to traditions, the language, and then the people, and of course the culinary delights, all one package.
Obviously, yes.
That made Malacca so important.
Correct.
See, the Portuguese writer Tom Pires, when he wrote his book Soma Oriental, at one point he said 84 languages were spoken in Malacca. 84 languages spoken in Malacca.
Yep.
So the erosion of this language spoken by the Malacca Portuguese people must never happen, because this was part and parcel of that diversity, linguistic diversity that came with the people, for the Arabs, the Sindhis, the Gujaratis, the Chinese, all kinds of people came, and they made home here, right? They made home here. And that's that unique diversity that Malacca has. So any small part of it must not erode. Every small part of it must be retained, whether it's the Chiti Malacca or the Baba Nyonyas or the Malacca Portuguese. So we need to continue to keep things, retain things, and then develop it so that more people come to know about what is the dire situation right now, but what we hope it will be in the future.
Correct.
We want to build a future where none of what we have today will be lost. I think that's the aim.
Yes. So, Cultural Arts and Heritage Society, which is addressed here, and then hopefully, like what you just said, we want to try to invite as many people that are passionate about preserving their culture and heritage. And at the same time, the society's aim is actually to try and see how we can celebrate all these festivals that we have been celebrating, some religious, some social, and also I think the latest was to try to make a day where we can celebrate inter-religious, create an interfaith or inter-religious festival involving the Chinese temple out there, which is a few hundred years old, the Masjid Anwar just along Bandar Hilir, and also the Assumption Church. So we're trying to see if to find a day where we can have maybe a day where we can celebrate all these places of worship and make it like a harmony, inter-religious celebration. So actually we are already in the process of discussing. A friend of mine from the temple is already told me, Martin, we can discuss this at least for next year, 2024. So like I say, hopefully with the society now spearheading all this kind of rejuvenation, revitalizing the Praya Lane area, hopefully we can achieve something at least within this year or so. So actually now I want to show you something that's quite there. It is not the front, This is still the back staircase of the house. So I don't know the front, when Bernard occupied his house, whether he changed the staircase in front, because I feel strongly that style is the style of that era. So this is interesting. Is this typical? It's like a typical Roma Malacca design. No doubt it's not shaped.
You will usually open up like that.
Usually the Malacca open up.
Not so straight.
Yes, not so straight.
The other thing is, it could have been a stairs coming down to a backyard.
Possible.
This was all extension.
This is definitely extension.
This was just a stairs coming down to a sandy backyard.
Correct. And then this actually
is Dutch brick.
Exactly. So this is a Dutch brick. So that means that this staircase is definitely old. Could have been an original structure.
Dutch styled bricks. Because
Yes,
this was made much later during British times. But the style is of Dutch style, flat.
Yes. In fact, there is some bricks that I want to show you later across to show you the original Dutch brick that came in. Was that fine? Yes. So this is something
very interesting.
This part very interesting. The inside is okay, nothing much.
This could have been a back,
this could have been, like you say,
a
stair, the backyard. Possible. Now the sad thing is, this is all new. This facade is definitely new. new, even maybe this is also new. So maybe there was, I don't know, I'm just guessing, that there was actually an entrance here, this way. So whether it was like that kind of staircase, no, I'm not very sure. But I feel this is definitely new, the way he did it, because maybe it was a trending pattern. Definitely is new. But if you see from down